Welcome to the Falcon Focus podcast. We are live just outside the Falcons Nest in the Student Union, live every Tuesday on Facebook Live, and then you can watch the archive. Find the link at cuwfalcons.com. You can also download the podcast at Podbean. That website also is linked to cuwfalcons.com. My name is Matt Menzl, and as mentioned, we're live every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10 o'clock as we recap the week that was and preview the week that will be in Falcon Athletics. And, of course, we'll also be joined by a couple of guests. And on today's show, we'll be joined by the women's soccer head coach back for his 16th season, a Concordia alum in Ryan Middendorf. The women's soccer team, as we'll recap in a second, coming off a win last night and knocking off Lake Forest by the final score of 4-1. Also be joined by junior Craig Reese as we talk men's cross country. They had their first event on Saturday they hosted here on the Mequon campus, so we'll get into that and talk about their 2018 season as well. Before we get to our first couple of guests, let's recap the week that was here in Falcon Athletics. We begin by talking women's tennis, who last week on Tuesday they knocked off MSOE 9-0 before they would also take care of Aurora 9-0 on Saturday. Saturday they were tested by the newest member of the conference, and Illinois Tech had a play comeback and knocking off that program 5-4 after being down 2-1 through the doubles rounds of play. The women's tennis team has now won 31 consecutive conference matches. In fact, they've taken it to 19 of those opponents. They blanked 19 of those 31 conference foes. They've also won now 12 consecutive on the home courts. In men's soccer, it was a busy week. On September 5th, lost 4-0 at St. Norbert, allowing all 4 goals in the second half. Yeah, bouncing back on Saturday. It was a home matchup against Northland. Knocked off Northland by the final score of 3-0, in which Christian Turpak, Spencer Standarski, and Nick Anweiler all were goal scorers. And a game that would see the Falcons outshoot Northland 25-0, 13-0 in shots on goal. Falcons are now 2-0 at Fitting Field, which is good news because they're going to be home on Wednesday against Carroll University. The team would then lose on Sunday, a setback by the final score of 4-3. That was at UW-Platteville, in which the Falcons jumped in front 1-0 before allowing 4 unanswered. Nick Anweiler, Dago Diaz, and Tyler Salvador all scored goals for Concordia. In women's soccer, it was a busy week. It wasn't supposed to be as busy, but it became more compact because they were supposed to play UW Whitewater on Tuesday. Weather postponed the match up to Thursday. All of a sudden, you look at 3 matches in 5 days. And against Whitewater, it was a 2-0 loss, giving up a couple of second-half goals. Lost 2-0 at Elmhurst. That on Saturday before regrouping and knocking off Lake Forest last night by the final score of 4-1, in which the Falcons got a couple of goals and an assist from Allie Hall. Allison McElwee was able to score, as did Isabel Downs, her second of the season. In women's golf, on September the 7th, they were at the Mount Mary tournament. Took first out of 3, finishing 10 strokes at a second place Wisconsin Lutheran. Also for women's golf, they had 3 out of the top 4 golfers in that event, led by Amy Carpenter. She was a medalist, shooting 100, and earned medalist honors with that score. On September 9th, the women's golf team, they took 4th out of 7. That was in the NAC preview event. In men's golf, they were at the Carthage tournament this past weekend on September 7th and September 8th. They finished in 12th out of 21 schools. They shot .637 for the 2 rounds. Andrew Otto, he finished with a score of 154. That was tied for 21st of what was a jam-packed leaderboard. In football, the football team fell to 1-1. They had their home opener at Tomasini Stadium. Despite a effort in which they nearly came back from down 20-0, they fell to Augsburg University by the final score 27-24. Despite the fact he had Josh Sanders from a receiving standpoint, he had 15 catches, 189 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Quarterback Aaron Nixon, yes, he's known for his throwing ability, but also his mobility. He was able to run the ball 13 times, 145 yards, had a touchdown in that loss. They look to regroup Elma on the docket at home this Saturday. Women's volleyball had a tough weekend. They were at Stevens Point on Friday. They knocked off the Stevens Point Pointers 3-1 to start 3-0 for a 3rd consecutive year. But a couple of 5-set setbacks on Saturday, falling against Bethel 3-2, and then also falling against St. Mary's 3-2. Field hockey's 3-0 first time in their program's history. A 3rd-year program able to knock off Sweetbriar by the final score of 5-0. That was from Wilson College in Pennsylvania. Megan McPike along with Ellie Basting, who scored twice. You have Sam Dunn and Savannah Duckett, all were goal scorers, and a game that see the Falcons up 39-2 in shots, including 25-2 in shots on goal. They were supposed to play the second game of that tournament on September 9th against Earlham. Because of whether the matchup was canceled, Earlham, though, just so happens to be on the docket up next for the Falcons. We'll talk more about that when we look at our week ahead coming up at our final segment. Finally, men's and women's cross country. We mentioned they were home this past weekend to get their season started. In men's cross country, they finished in second out of 6 in the Classic they hosted. They had the top 2 finishers in Wesley Sheik and Craig Reese, who we'll talk to in just moments. And then in women's cross country, they finished in 3rd out of 9 in that same event, and 3 runners finished in the top 10 out of 72 competitors. So that is the week that was in Falcon Athletics, and again, you can check out cuwfalcons.com for complete recaps of all those events, along with the final statistics from some of those sporting events. But when we come back here on the Falcon Focus podcast, we turn our attention to men's cross country and we talk with Craig Reese. Stay tuned. Tune into the Falcon Focus podcast. We're live just outside the Falcons nest here at the Student Union.
You know, God never intended for us to live a comfortable life. He created us to go outside our comfort zones, to use our gifts and talents in the service of others, to live a you-first life in a me-first world. At Concordia University, it's our mission to prepare you for that path, so that you stand apart from the crowd and live a life that's actually uncommon. Concordia University, live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Falcon Focus podcast. Falcons Nest outside in the Student Union. The site will be live every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10, and joined by a couple of guests every week as we also recap the week that was and preview the week that will be in Falcon Athletics, and being joined by men's cross country junior Craig Reese, a Germantown, Wisconsin native, kind enough to join us. And we mentioned the cross country season began this past Saturday here at home. Team finished in second on the men's side. You individually finished in second behind one of your teammates. How do you think things went on Saturday for the first meet of the season?
I thought it went really good, actually. Speaking of what you said, like it was super muddy. There's so many puddles in that course. I wasn't very surprised how the weather was this past week and how it was raining. So our coach just gave us a little strategy saying just don't go all out. Don't focus on time for this race. Focus on how you feel for the first time out and stuff like that. And so I felt pretty good. So I kept a pace by a group. I didn't go all out, but then in the beginning, I set my pace to as like a easy tempo. But then at the end, I progressively kicked in at the end, and when a lot of runners were starting to lose their, I guess, kind of their pace, so then I would move up each runner until I would get to the final stretch, and I would just use it all up at the end. So.
Hey, you talked about the muddy conditions. Did you get an opportunity at all maybe prior to, I mean, it's been raining, it seems like forever, and now all of a sudden the sun's coming out these last couple of days, but did you guys get an opportunity to practice on that course, maybe days leading in to maybe prepare for what the conditions might be?
No, we haven't. We just been running on the roads around campus, but we haven't like practiced on the actual course just because how muddy and there's so many puddles. So there were puddles that were like almost high up to our ankles and stuff, so it wasn't really a point to practice on it, but we knew it was going to be muddy, so we were cautious of what it's going to be like, so we took a kind of maneuver back by mind what it was going to be like. So
is the course here comparable to other courses you guys run? I mean, there are a lot of differences, a lot of similarities.
Yeah, it depends I guess what course, but some courses, like let's say 3 weeks we're going to run in Eau Claire, that's not going to be as muddy as this course, but it depending what kind of, I guess, woods there is. But yeah, but I know that 3 weeks Eau Claire, it's not going to be as muddy, I don't think, but I'm hoping, yeah, our team will do a lot better from our practicing what we're going to be doing for the next 3 weeks. So I'm counting on myself and Wesley and the rest of the team too to see what we can do for the big meet.
You talked about pacing in that first event on Saturday, and Wesley Sheik ended up finishing first. Is it fun having a guy like Wesley? I know he's a freshman that came in after a great prep career in Oshkosh, but is it fun having a guy like that maybe challenges you, that maybe pushes you a little bit harder?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that. I enjoyed chasing someone. for a race because these last couple years I haven't really had a person in my team to chase with, but it's so nice actually to have someone to chase with, and it's so awesome that he's a new freshman on the team, and how he's so confident, and that it gives me the confidence to stay with him. Just so it gives me a good adjustment of my pace, and I can run faster and know what I can come for. So it's a really good thing to have someone to chase with. That's my strategy too.
You talked about your success in the past, and you look at 2017. You were part of the all-conference team. You finished third in the NAC championships. You posted a PR 8K time at the NCAA Division III Midwest Regionals.
Mm-hmm.
You were the top finisher for Falcons in all 6 meets.
Yeah.
Saying all that, hearing all that, how would you summarize the kind of year you had last year?
Well, I know in freshman year I didn't really know how to run 8Ks. Because high school I usually ran 5Ks for cross country, so freshman year was kind of a big jump for me. I didn't know what paces to run, and it was just all new to me and coach's strategies. But then my second year, I had a better idea of what my coach had in mind. So then I would follow his workouts and his strategies and how he told us to be patient in races. That's a key too, is to be patient. So then each race I would listen to my coach saying be patient in race, and then at the end just pour it on at the end. So it really, if you really listen to coach's key things, it could really help your performance.
So what was your focus on during the offseason in preparation for this third year?
A lot of it is just running your mileage, but just not going all out in the summer. Just focus on running your mileage, not anyone else's mileage, and starting off, slow. If you take time off, start with a smaller mileage, but then adding up however you feel, or each by week. So I actually over the summer I somehow kind of tore a groin, not a muscle, but a tendon of it. So then I went to see a chiropractor over the summer, and he really helped me adjust some things on my groin. So then when I kept doing that each day, stretching otherwise, it really helped my performance too with form. So I think that really helped me get I'd say less likely to get injured. So I'm happy with that.
You're also on the track team. You're a distance runner. Have you always enjoyed distance running? Is that something that maybe newer, or has it always kind of been an interest of yours?
Well, in high school, I usually ran 800s and mile. That was kind of my gig in high school. But then my coach now thought I could do more with how my distance and times were in cross country. Thought I could run like a 5K and a 10K in college for track season. So I think that's it was really cool that I get to do that and experience those types of races, because I never really ran those races in high school, but in college it's just all new to me, running higher mileage races. So then it gives me the more confidence now to reach those types of goals for this year and for the following year, senior year. So
going back a little bit, what sparked your interest in running? What made that your sport of choice, going cross country, track and field, about route versus another sport?
Well, actually in elementary school and in middle school as well, I actually played basketball those years. So I was really a basketball person until I'd say about in 8th grade I joined running too in 8th grade in cross country. So I wanted to try it out, but my parents thought it'd be really cool for me to stay in shape if I'm off season for basketball. It's something for me to do to keep in shape. So I would run, and I wasn't too sure about it though, just because I never ran long distance before. I usually just run in basketball and never really tried running, long distance. So I wasn't too sure about it, but I kept on it, and until I really thought myself I could do more. So then I'd keep doing it. In high school, I tried out for basketball, but then it turns out that it's a Division I school and there's lots of other teammates that want to try out. So then I didn't end up making the team. So then I just stuck with running, and I was like, that I can, if I want to keep myself in shape and really want to be passionate about in the sport, I chose running to be as my passion sport. So
Finally, September 28th, according to the schedule, next time the men's cross-country team will be competing, and that's at the UW Eau Claire Blue Gold Invite. Being that may be the case now, you're looking, 3 weeks away from that being the date. How do you guys stay fresh? How do you stay focused? How do you get yourself ready? Because, that's a long stretch between one meet to the next.
Yeah, exactly. At times it can get tough from school and how we have to balance our schedules at times. Sometimes I might have to miss practice to work with tutors to keep really in check of my assignments, to not stay behind. So I really keep myself in check and talk to my coach. Really talk to them, because you always say, if you need anything, talk to him. So just so he can know too, and just whatever he has in mind and what kind of workouts he has, I'm always staying positive and keeping the workouts as not like an all-out workout, but just most of them being in tempo. So I'm not really worked up about it, but just keeping myself in positive mode, saying myself I can do it, and saying I can keep up with Wesley, and really it's just all that positive thing. It's whatever it's in your mind too. It's whatever your mind's telling you. If you can't do it, you gotta shut them off a little bit and just say, you know what, I can do it. So it's your mind too that can really change your ways of performance. So I learned from that.
Well, Craig, thanks a lot for your time. Best of luck the rest of the season, and we'll look forward to seeing what you're able to do throughout this your junior season.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited too as well for this year, how it goes.
That's Craig Reese of the men's cross country team. When we come back on the Falcon Focus podcast, we turn our attention to women's soccer, and we talk with head coach Ryan Middendorf. Stay tuned. You're tuned into the Falcon Focus podcast. Welcome back to the Falcon Focus podcast as we turn our attention now to women's soccer and being joined by the head coach, in fact, the winningest women's soccer coach in program history, a 2002 Concordia grad, and the 16th season head coach of the women's team, Ryan Middendorf. You played high school. I'm testing your memory here. You played high school at Martin Luther High and end up here at Concordia. How did you end up being a Falcon?
Wow. Well, probably started maybe my sophomore year of high school. I played a tournament up here at Concordia. Coach Sleska started reaching out to me a little bit, and kind of funny story, I had no real interest. My mom went to Concordia River Forest, so Concordia was actually off the table. It wasn't somewhere I was going to go. I was committed to play somewhere else. All set, had my room all set up, and then kind of a month or two before the season decided that this would be the right fit for me. So I got back in touch with Coach Sleska, and he welcomed me aboard.
You had a Hall of Fame career, and you mentioned playing for Dr. Tom Sleska. What did you learn from him, and maybe what kind of influences he had on your coaching career?
My gosh. you start learning things later in your playing career. My first couple years, you're just playing. You're not really recognizing what's going on too much. And then as it plays out, your junior year, senior year, you start putting things together and start realizing what you want to do with your life. And coaching was going to be a big part of my life. I just knew it then. So I started kind of keying in with what he was talking about and philosophies and how he approaches the game and the way that he interacts with his players just really hit home to me. And so he thankfully brought me on after I finished my playing career. I was able to be his assistant for a season, learned a lot during that year, and then somehow stars aligned. God had a plan for me and brought me back as the women's coach.
Was that surreal when you got the keys to the new car in 2003, and all of a sudden you're the head coach of a women's college soccer team?
Yeah. I mean, I knew I always wanted to coach at the college level. I didn't know when that was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen at some point, but it came a lot sooner than I had expected. It's kind of funny. I was on a road trip with a buddy of mine during that summer. It was in July, I think, and I get a call. I was somewhere in Wyoming, I think, and I get a call from Coach Slesk, and he says, "Ryan, I think we have a job here for you. I'm not at liberty to tell you what job it is, but I think you should get back to Concordia and get an interview with Dr. Barnhill." So I got back as soon as I could and interviewed, and the rest is history.
16th season, yeah, and obviously we took the job young. I mean, you look at it and you don't know how long you're going to be here. Maybe this is the start of what could be, and maybe you're looking to move on, whatever. But did you ever envision that you'd still be sitting here now, 16 seasons in, and as the winningest coach? And maybe what's kept you here?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's kept me here is the people. It's always been about the people. It's what brought me here, it's what kept me here, and it's what's going to keep me here. Yeah, I mean, back when you're 23 and you're coaching a college soccer team and you're still trying to figure out your own personal life and what's going on. No, I didn't envision myself being here 16 years later. I didn't exactly know what I was going to be doing 2 years beyond where I was, But as it kept going, I kept getting more and more passionate about it and loving it and realizing the impact that I can have on people around me. And it's not just the coaching. I mean, I love coaching. I love competing. I want to win every single time I'm out on a field, but it's more than that. It's bigger than that. So, that's what's kept me here.
As far as the wins, losses go, of course, year two, you're able to get the team to the NCAA tournament for the first time in the program's history. This is a team that annually is competing atop the NAC standings, and let's go that route. When you think of the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference in women's soccer, what comes to mind?
The advancement. I mean, the game has improved so much over the 15, 16 years. The development of players, they're different players. I mean, back 15 years ago, the recruiting was different, the talent level was different, and now, honestly, our top teams in the NAC can compete with anybody in the country, and it wasn't that way, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. When we went in the NCAA tournament that second year, our eyes were open to a whole nother level of soccer when we got throttled by Stevens Point. I think you were there.
I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, so our eyes were open, but I mean, it set a certain standard for us, and we now have expectations of being there and competing with these top teams in the country, and I think we can now.
You talk about that standard, setting the bar high, and like I mentioned, you guys annually are competing not only atop the conference, but it's a 10-plus win team on a regular basis. In your opinion, how are you guys able to sustain that consistency?
It's a culture in our program. It's setting those expectations and those standards, and asking the players to buy in and be with us, and we do it all together. And it's really been the players over these years that have created the success within the program.
And you look this season, no different, a competitive team, and record is always misleading, especially early on in the season. You don't want to be peaking
Absolutely.
early, but you guys play a challenging non-conference slate, no different this year. And so right now the team sits 1-3, but coming off a great win last night, now a challenging schedule of 5 straight on the road. But you're excited about this team, aren't you? A lot of depth, a lot of possibility with this group. Yeah,
this is, quite honestly, and I've told our team this potentially could be the best team we've ever had. I really believe that the players that we have and the way that everything's starting to come together, it's going to be a really, really special season. We've got to keep moving forward. I think we are. We always challenge ourselves early in the season, so we kind of set ourselves up to stumble once in a while, and we do that purposely. I mean, if we can easily schedule differently and bolster our record, but I choose not to. I choose to challenge our team and allow us to go through some of the struggles and fall down once in a while, and then regroup and learn more about ourselves.
I realize you brought back a good number of your scores from last year, but at least it looks like early on there may not be that one go-to scorer. Is that fair to say? I mean, the first 6 goals were scored by 6 different players.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're figuring ourselves out. It's going to start coming. Somebody's going to step up in that goal-scoring role, but I have no problem if it's coming from 6 different people. That means everybody's involved, everybody is on the same page, and we kind of set it up so that everybody does have opportunities to score and to defend everywhere. Our defense, although the scores may not indicate it, our defense is going to be really, really strong in a few more games here.
Of course, to talk about the defense, goalkeeping too, and you've been able to utilize 2 different goalkeepers in the first now 4 matches.
Yeah, we have Olivia and Kaylee are outstanding. They just do such a great job. It's a blessing, I guess, and maybe a curse in some ways that you have 2 really good goalkeepers. So both of them have been training hard and working hard, and we'll see how this season plays out. But anytime that they're in a match, they're ready, and they both step up every time.
Finally, this team is to compete for that conference championship here in the regular season, with conference play getting underway a week from tomorrow against Marion. If this team is to compete, what needs to happen?
We just need to keep moving forward, and it sounds kind of redundant and it sounds a little cliche, but it's the truth, and we cannot allow ourselves to take any steps back. Our conference season is going to be really, really difficult. There's some quality teams in the league, and I anticipate most every match is going to be, pretty hard fought.
Coach Middendorf, as always, thanks a lot for your time, and check out uwfalcons.com for more information on the women's soccer team. Check out the schedule. Not a lot of home games in September, but there are a 3-match homestand coming up at the end of the month, which includes Edgewood and a couple other big opponents, Aurora and UW La Crosse. You can find that at uwfalcons.com. When we come back, we wrap up the podcast by taking a look at the week ahead in Falcon Athletics. You're tuned to the Falcon Focus podcast.
The Student Personnel Administration in Higher Education, or SPAHI program at Concordia University is designed for people who want to work in the university setting in any department. So if you're interested in working in academic advising, campus activities, residence life, admissions, financial aid, this program is really designed for anyone interested in those areas. The mission of Concordia is to help students develop in mind, body, and spirit, and that was really evident in the program. I really enjoyed that I could be in class one night and take what I learned and apply it on the job the very next day. My name is Amber Schiesel, and I am a SPAHI graduate.
Welcome back to the Falcon Focus podcast. We thank both of our guests, Craig Reese, along with head coach Ryan Middendorf on the women's soccer team for joining us here on this edition. And again, we'll be with you every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10. We'll be live on Facebook Live. You can also watch the archive at cuwfalcons.com, the Podbean website as well. To download the podcast, you can find the link to the Podbean website at cuwfalcons.com. And again, we'll be back at it next week here outside the Falcons Nest at the Student Union. But as we wrap things up, let's take a look at the week ahead in Falcon Athletics. And things get going again coming up on Wednesday. And men's soccer will be in action at Fitting Field against Carroll University. Kickoff at 4:30. Cannot be there in person. The multi-camera broadcast will have it for you here on the Falcon Athletic Network. Women's volleyball opens up conference play Wednesday at Lakeland at 7 p.m. Start the set 1. The Falcons have won back-to-back conference championships. They go into that matchup having won 25 consecutive conference matches. Men's golf is at the Midwest Region Fall Classic on Friday. Saturday, women's volleyball is in Kenosha at Carthage this weekend. Friday they take on St. Mary's. Saturday they take on Chicago and Carthage. Saturday it's a busy day for Falcon Athletics as women's golf is at the Marion Fall Invitational. Field hockey is at Earlham at 10 a.m. Sunday at Bellarmine. as they try to continue what has been a 3-0 start to their third year. Women's tennis is at Concordia, Chicago at 10 a.m. on Saturday, at Dominican at 2 p.m. Football is back home. They are taking on Elma at 1 o'clock as part of the MIAA NAC Challenge Series. The first meeting between the two programs back in 2016 resulted in a 31-28 Elma win. If you cannot, again, be at Tomasini Stadium in person, we'll broadcast for you at 1 o'clock on the Falcon Athletic Network. In women's soccer, they will be at Kelvin at 1:30 on Saturday, at St. Mary's on Sunday at 12 noon. Again, they begin a stretch of 5 consecutive on the road before they wrap up the month of September with 3 straight home matches. Men's soccer is one match. It's under the lights at 7 o'clock on Saturday at UW Whitewater. Sunday, women's triathlon is at the NCAA Central Regional Qualifier. And again, all of those events taking place this weekend. You can find the stats and complete recaps when the events come to a completion at CUWFalcons.com. And of course, we'll recap that action coming up next Tuesday right here on the podcast. That'll do it for this week's edition. Thanks to all involved in our show. Matt Menzl saying so long, go Falcons, and thanks for joining us for the Falcon Focus podcast here on CUWFalcons.com and Podbean at CUWFalcons.com.